Okay, so you should get a notification that we're being recorded. So if you do have to ask questions, make sure you've clicked yes on that, because I think it keeps you from taking the mic if you don't. Okay, so housekeeping stuff. We do have flight information for you. I sent that out earlier this week, so you should know what day you need to arrive in London, what airport you're arriving at. The faculty flight, Dr. Dobbins, who you met on Tuesday, I've sent you her itinerary. You are not required to be on the same plane with her, nor are you even required to land at the airport that particular day. But if you want transportation from the airport to the house, you need to pay specific attention to those details. If you will be coming to the house directly yourself, not from the airport, you cannot arrive early. So if you plan to go spend the summer in Italy, lucky you cannot be at the house earlier than that August 27th date. So you will need to keep that in mind and check in then. So we will be asking you to upload that flight itinerary that you create for yourself, just so we have an idea of who all will be needing the transportation from the airport to the house, your small group. And if several of you aren't using the transportation, then we need to know that to make the correct accommodations. Okay, ask me if you have any questions about that later. Some of you have asked about course registration. I can't remember if I said this on Tuesday. I think I did. It's been quite a week with Tom here. It's been very, very busy. So we'll be sending that out soon. We're building that. Okay. Those are the housekeeping things I had. Let's now start talking about your visa. So as you have been told a couple of times by me in your advising, you'll be required to have a visa to study and intern in the UK this fall. The type of visa is a student visa. So that's in quotes to make sure you realize that is the actual name, the term of it. So you don't need to work, like, that's the term, student visa. We'll talk more about that as we go. But just to remind you, this is why we're here, why we're talking about it. That student visa has what's called a 50-50 rule, which means that the work you do has to be matched by the coursework you do. So since you will be having a 20-hour-a-week work placement, they are expecting a 20-hour study commitment per week as well. I know you're thinking, whoa, wait a minute, I only take 12 credits. I thought you said the minimum was 12. That is true. You're not going to be taking 20 credits. It's 20 study hours. So for every credit, every in-class hour you have, there are expectations for how much work you do outside that hour. That's what makes it a 2020 compliance by being enrolled in a minimum of 12 credit hours. Now that 12 credits includes the internship course, which is the academic component of your work placement. Tom showed you the course schedule, tentative schedule on Tuesday. So you see how that course is going to fit in and be taught. So you do want to make sure you have that on your schedule and in your mind. I know I've said this to each of you when you did advising with me, but class attendance is required by law as a component of your visa, as a requirement of your visa. So obviously, if you are too sick to be out of bed, that is an exception. But things like personal days, going off and traveling when you should be in class, that is not acceptable. We will say this again. Class attendance is required by law and something we have to report on. So let's talk a little bit more about staying in compliance. This is, again, future looking, not what you'll need to do right now, which we'll get to in a second, but just so we are setting expectations correctly. As we were just talking about when you're going to arrive, right, your flights. If you are planning to arrive in the UK earlier than the date that will be printed on your visa, you need to be in touch with us. That's part of why we want to get your itinerary and your schedule, because you're supposed to be arriving and departing according to the dates printed on your visa. So this could be at the end of the program too, right? It's going to be Christmas time. Maybe your parents are coming on the 12th and are going to stay for an additional several weeks to enjoy Christmas in London. Fine, but there will be a procedure where you'll have to potentially exit the UK, come back in on a tourist visa instead of a student visa. And obviously, Joe, as our resident expert, can help you with that and help you coordinate all of that. But you just need to know that this is a requirement of being in compliance, that the visas for specific dates. Okay.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I thought I'd just say hello there. So I'm Jo. I work with Tom in London. And yes, the important thing really there is get your visa before you make any firm travel plans, because it will have dates on it. And if you arrive in the UK before it's valid, then you'll probably be refused entry, and that causes all sorts of problems. So if you have any questions around that, for example, if you were planning to spend your summer in Italy and you were going to fly into London first, then go to Italy, then come back here, that would be a reason to reach out to me, because you'll already have the visa in your passport, but it won't be valid. So it just creates some additional hoops to jump through. So wait until you've got your visa, till you can see those dates, and also talk to me if you're doing anything remotely complicated. Okay, thanks.
Yes, indeed. Right. So, because we are here to help you, and today's going to feel overwhelming. There's a lot of information, but it is not as scary as it seems, and you have such good help, right? Jo is here to make sure we're doing everything we need to do. All right. But you also need to do this number one thing. You'll hear me say it till you're sick of it. You need to keep your visa and your passport secured at all times, because it is a physical sticker. The visa is a physical sticker in your passport. And so it's one thing, and you don't want to lose the passport, thereby losing the visa, or things are going to go really badly because replacing that, and we'll talk more about this later, but it's difficult. So just be thinking about that. Okay. Here's a note that we always share as we're thinking about moving forward with this. The visa process does take up to 6 weeks, but it could take longer, and we never know what might occur. So for example, a war broke out in Ukraine, and that caused all kinds of delays with the visa processing, because the UK government pivoted to accept refugees coming from that war area. So we never know. Those types of events tragically do happen. And so we want to make sure that you are doing this well in advance, especially because not only do things come up that change processing times, but there are often errors. Don't think we have usually a time that goes by that we don't have at least one that comes back where they've made the mistake. And so getting that back to them, correcting that, can take additional time. And we want to make sure we are well in advance of all of this. So I know it feels busy right now. You know, you're in the middle of the semester, but following our instructions in a timely way and following our dates is going to be really important. So do not delay in following our instructions. So what are you going to need in order to apply for your visa, right? That's what we're talking about today, how you're going to apply for your visa right now. You are going to, first of all, need an immigration/CAS letter. If you don't remember from previous discussions, CAS is a certificate for acceptance to study. It's a number that has been issued to you by the UK government. And we have used that number to create a letter. So I don't know if you're also seeing my little box, but I'm holding up the immigration letter. There's one for each of you with your specific name, date, passport number. Those have been uploaded to your documents tab in your application portal. If you're not sure how to find that, please be in touch with me right away. But basically, just go back to abroad.sanford.edu. You could be following along on your computer right now if you'd like. Go to abroad.sanford.edu, click My Application Portal. That'll ask you to log in. When you log in, you'll see the Sanford in London app. Click into that. It should land you on either your itinerary or your requirements. But at the top, there's also a Documents tab. Click that tab, and you will see a copy of your immigration letter right there. So you're going to need that document. It will also, I haven't emailed you. Does that say I've emailed you? No. Yeah, it does say. I can send you a file. You can also come and get the paper copy that I printed off. So if you're in Brooks today, stop in the office and grab it, or tomorrow, whenever. We made some paper copies as well. but you can find it in your documents tab, and I will email it to you as well. The second necessary thing, and this is really necessary. It sounds like, oh, it's just some instructions. Well, they're walking me through it today. Get these instructions, have them printed off and right beside you as you're doing the application, because they go step by step. As much as possible, they go question by question, and they'll be really invaluable, imperative. Some other in word that I can't think of right now for doing the actual application. So those are also, where are they? They're also on your documents tab on your application portal. And you're going to need that immigration CAS number that's on your immigration letter to move forward. Okay, so those are the things you need. Make sure you have your letter, your instructions. There will be 3 steps to this application process. Number 1, you're going to be doing an online application, paying the application fee. This is to the UK government. So it's their separate outside website, nothing through our website. Once you've done that, the next step is to actually go in person to an appointment here in town. Usually there are different places where you can make the appointment, but there's a conveniently located one right here in Birmingham. So it's called the biometrics appointment, because they mean, getting data about your physical presence. So your bio stuff. So biometrics appointment, they're going to scan your fingerprints, take your fingerprints. They're going to need a photo of you. You're going to be there in person, obtaining signatures, etc. Okay, so first step, fill out the online stuff. That will lead you to an appointment, to make an appointment. You'll keep that appointment. And then you must go to a UPS center where you can ship off your passport and your supporting documents to the UK Visa Processing Center in New York City. Right? So first, you're at your computer, you do your thing, then you go to your appointment, collect all the stuff, put it in a package and mail it to New York. Those are the 3 steps. I've put a little bracket there by the number 2 and the number 3, because while I've made them separate steps, I think they're really kind of one thing, because you want to make sure you schedule an appointment with enough time after it, right, before you need to be anywhere else, to just go mail the things right then. When you walk out the door of your biometrics, you will have everything you need in your possession to just go mail it. There's no reason to delay or to wait a couple days and forget about it or stick it in a drawer, and then your passport never gets the visa in it, even though you've done everything else. So go as soon as you can. So we're suggesting you get the earliest biometrics appointment available. However, if the earliest one that's available is like right between 2 classes, don't take that one, because you can't then go straight to UPS and mail your packet. It might be better to wait a day or 2 to a better day where you have more time. But you want to do it soon. You want to do it as soon as you can. So that's the overview of what you'll be doing. So before you begin those 3 steps, I talked about the documentation, the documents you would need, right? Your visa letter and your instructions. But we also suggest this before you begin the process. Have your passport, your credit card, and a bunch of information, which includes any international travel you've done in the past, the dates and destinations, and information about your parents. You might need your mother's maiden name. You want to collect that information and have it with you before you do the online application, because it will ask you for those things, many dates and travel you've already done. So the more you can have it kind of collected and all in one place, the less scattered you'll feel when you sit down to do the application. Now, you can start and stop the application, and it can be a lot to do in one sitting, so it's fine if you need to stop because you need to go collect some information that you didn't know about, or even just to take a break because you're starting to feel fuzzy. That's fine. But the more you can have available ahead of time, the better. I will also mention that the credit card is sometimes a step that throws people. If your credit card does not, if your credit card company has not been notified that this charge is coming through, it can halt the process, because this is actually a payment being made to the UK government. And so therefore it looks like an international charge. And sometimes credit cards will flag that and refuse it. So ahead of time, before you begin, call your credit card company, whatever credit card you're going to use. If it's your parents, have them call, and just give the company a heads up that there will be this international charge coming. The next thing you want to have access to while you're doing this is a printer, because you will be printing off some pages from this application to use at the appointment. So it's good to just have a printer available to you as you're walking through this. And as I said just a second ago, you can save and then save and quit, log back in at any time, any point in the application. I think maybe after you've done your personal information, that's kind of one step, and you can't get back into that if you stop and save beyond that point. But at any other point in the application, you can save or save and quit and go back. Joe, do you want to add anything on that particular screen?
No, I think that's good. I think with your parents, the things as well as like previous surnames that they might have had, like Jennifer said, a maiden name, they also want to know their place of birth. So that's, I think, in terms of your parents' information. And for the travel, again, if you have any specific questions about that, you can ask me. They're only interested in places that you've actually cleared border control in. So, for example, if you've flown through somewhere en route to somewhere else, you don't have to put that down. So that sometimes helps people to make it a little bit less complicated. But yeah, do ask me as you're going through if anything comes up. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. Okay. So let's walk through a little, drill down a little bit more to talk about what you're going to be doing in addition to these kind of first things as you apply. So you want to enter your name exactly as it appears on your passport. That's why having your passport beside you will be helpful. It's also on your immigration letter, exactly the way you've reported it on your passport, but make sure you're putting it in exactly, which means following their terminology. So when they ask for given name, that's your first and middle, right? If you have multiple of those, not just two, make sure you're putting in all names that are given to you that are not your family or surname, right? So those are the terminology they use, and they need to be separate. So first and middle name when it says given name, what we would call last name for family name or surname. This is really crucial. Make sure the email address you give them is your, is one that you'll check regularly. We encourage it to be your Sanford email. And you may need to monitor your spam folder or the junk mail folder, because sometimes emails from them end up there. But being able to get the emails quickly, letting you know the status of your application, the status of your visa is crucial. So make sure you're using an email that you check regularly, and that will be your log on. So you want to make sure you have that. So this is crucial. I'm sure most of you already know this, but it can still be disorienting when you suddenly see a date and you can't remember quite what's the day, month, order. In the UK, the day is listed before the month. So if you were thinking about your birthday, you would want to make sure the day of your birth is first, then the month that you were born, and then the year. Would anybody like to turn on their mic and tell us your birthday in the UK ordering? Not that we would know your birthday, but just to practice.
1/12/2003.
Ah, that's a great one, because you were obviously born in January. No, you were born in December, right? So, okay, good deal. That's enough. All right, so, oops, moving on. Again, we have given you as exact a set of instructions as we can. So we want you to know that paying attention to the details can be extremely important, especially because it may ask you some things that you intuitively would provide a different answer to. That's why it's important to look at the answers we've provided on the instructions, because what we are telling you to say will be correct, even if it feels false. So for example, you have not paid any money to an institution in the UK. You are paying money to Sanford, and Sanford is a US institution. So for example, if they ask you a question such as, have you or your parent already paid money? Remember, you are talking to the UK government. So you say no, because you have not paid an institution in the UK any money. When it says how much has been paid, you just put 0. How much are your course fees? Again, 0. So even though you're paying money to Sanford and your course fees are definitely not 0, those are the correct answers for this application. And that's what will be on that set of instructions. So again, look at them closely. Don't just do it off the cuff from what you already think you know. Follow the instructions closely. Now, unfortunately, that form is an online dynamic form, and we can't always predict how it will look to you. Sometimes based on your answers, other questions could pop up. They are at liberty to change that form at their discretion. They often change stuff without letting us know at all. So just know that. And if you at any point feel like, oh, this isn't matching my instructions, or you get confused, just stop and come and get some help. But hopefully it will look very, very much the same as the instructions that we've given you. Just wanted to put that note out there. After you have completed all of the pages of the application, you'll get a chance to review it. Again, I don't think you can go all the way back and just fix your name and personal information. So make sure that first little section, you do it really carefully before you move on. But anything else, all the other information, you can go back and correct those mistakes before submitting. So do make sure you review it closely and make sure it's matching your information and what we have provided to you. This one's in red because this is a really important thing you'll want to do as you're going through the application, right? Don't think this will just be provided at the end. I think it's right when you're making the payment, if not before. So have it in your mind as you go through to watch for it so that you don't miss it and go past it. And that is the GWF number. So many numbers, but this is a new number that will be generated by this application. So it's different than your CAS. It's different than your passport. It is its own unique number. It's the global web form number, right? From doing this online form. So watch for it. It is a unique reference number that you will need to track, follow up, query your application if we're not hearing anything from them and you need to kind of track it down, or Joe needs to kind of help you figure out where your application is in the process. It's the GF number that we will need. So write it down somewhere or get it on a screenshot, make sure you have it. We will actually ask you for it on your application portal at abroad.sanford.edu, which we'll talk about in just a second. So make sure you have it, locate that number as you're going through. In yellow, because again, really important, highlighting this. Once you have completed your online application, you want to print a copy. This is one of the things that will need to be included in the packet you mail. So you want to print off just usually the first 2 pages of the application. Again, once it's completed, you've gotten to that end stage, you want to print your online application. The next thing it will ask you for, right? So you've gone through, you've put in all the information, you've paid, you've done that. It will ask you to select your biometrics appointment, meaning the location and the time. Again, please take the earliest you can, because the sooner we can get this moving forward, the sooner your visa is returned to you, which again, if you're spending that time in Italy this summer, you want your visa, your passport back with the visa as fast as you can get it. So you want to select a time for your biometrics appointment right there at the end of the application. Now, do know this, that whenever you schedule that appointment for, right, if it's like the next day or the next week, when you complete your in-person appointment, we say go right straight to mail off your material, but that will start a 5-day window for mailing that off. So this shouldn't really matter if you follow instructions and go straight from the biometrics to the UPS store, but just know that you do only have 5 days to complete that mailing off your material. All right, so your pay, you do have 3 hours of selecting your biometrics appointment to pay. So make sure you get it within that window as well. And then when this is all done, you've done your application, got your appointment, printed it off, you should get an email that confirms everything, right? So an email with all the information about your appointment. This is highlighted yellow as well. So this is the second thing you have to print. First, print your application. Second, print the email. And there'll be instructions telling you that, but you want to print it and take it to that appointment with you. Again, all of this is in your written instructions. The reason you're taking that email with you is that they will sign it to confirm you are actually there at that appointment at that time, and it goes into your packet of materials to mail. So that's all of step 1. I know, again, feels like a lot. There's all this printing, there's all these documents, but just take it step by step and you will be fine. And we are here to help. You can make appointments with us. We'll even schedule some open office hours where you could come and sit with us. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but just you walk it through. Now you're ready to go in person. So when you have scheduled your biometric appointment, you attend in person so that you can have all the materials that will go into your packet to mail. And they all have to be shipped within how many days? Somebody want to turn the camera on and show me? Well, I was about to show you. I stopped my fingers. How many days? Or just say it on your mic. I just told you.
5.
5. There you go. Okay. 5. So again, keeping that appointment in a timely way is really important. And again, after you've done your in-person thing, head straight to the UPS shipping office. We used to recommend that students use the one that's right up here on Oxmoor Road, like kind of behind the Piggly Wiggly there off of 31 or Independence Drive or whatever it's called. That one on Oxmoor Road, because there were people there who had done these for students before, but I think there's been enough turnover now that that UPS store doesn't really have any advantage other than being close to campus and close to where you may be going for your appointment. So you can use that one, the UPS store on Oxmoor Road, but as long as it's a shipping office, they should be able to help you take all of the materials and send it off to New York, which is step 3. So hopefully this is happening the same day as your biometrics appointment, but you must physically send your passport to the VFS office in order to process your visa. We did have somebody go all the way through the biometrics. They got everything signed. They had all the stuff and then they went home and put it all in a drawer and then forgot about it. And so they almost didn't get to go on the program. So don't do that. Please go straight there and take all your required documents. Again, this is in your written instructions, but I'm going to list them right here for you. You need your actual physical passport. Can't be an image of it like you scanned for us. It has to be the actual physical thing. So if you don't have that in your possession, I mean, you were told to have it in your possession, but if you don't, obviously you got to get that right away. The copy of the CAS letter or immigration letter. Again, you can come get the one we've printed, or you can print it yourself, but you need a physical copy of that. The printed copy of your online application, first 2 pages, print that as you're going through that. And then the confirmation of your biometrics appointment being completed. Again, print off that email confirmation and take it with you so they can sign it for you. And those are the 4 things. Although there's an and, but those are the 4 things to take to UPS with you: your passport, your letter, your app, and your completed biometrics proof. The 5th thing you will get at UPS, because highlighted in red, really bright red, super important, boop, 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 boop. You want to put in a prepaid UPS return shipping label. That doesn't mean a return label on the outside of the envelope you send that shows your address. We're not talking about that. This is something that goes inside with these other documents that will send your visa passport back to you, right? So it's a prepaid label that the UK immigration people can just put on a package and mail it to you. So it'll have a barcode that needs to be scanned. It needs to have an address where you will be in several weeks. So I would not use your campus address. You may be gone for the summer by the time this all gets processed. So use a permanent address where you know it will never change. You can always collect your passport and visa from that address. We had somebody use their apartment here in Birmingham, which they then moved out of, and the package was floating around trying to go to the leasing office of this apartment complex. I'm not going to go pick it up from a leasing office at an apartment complex. We don't want to have to do that, right? So make sure that label is to a permanent address. And again, we recommend you just get that at the UPS store. They should be able to generate that for you. I mean, you have to pay for it because this is prepaid, but they can generate that for you and put it in the packet with your other 4 things. So your 4 documents you bring with you and the label you buy at UPS all go in the package. Okay, and then you ship it off. You'll get a confirmation from the UK consulate that your visa is being processed, maybe about a week after you mail it all off. Again, it'll vary greatly, maybe 6 weeks for this to all get processed and sent back to you. So if you need it earlier than 6 weeks, right? So you are planning to travel, right as soon as graduation or the semester ends, right? That could be sooner than 6 weeks. Perhaps you're on a May term program or some other international travel. You can purchase a priority visa processing, but it is an additional cost. And so you need to weigh that, whether you feel that that is worth the cost or not. Come talk with us if you have any timing questions, any concerns there. We are happy to talk with you about that. Okay, you now have everything you need to know. All of the materials and instructions are in your hands, or at least at your fingertips at your abroad.stanford.edu application. But when should you start? You're just going to wait a few weeks, take care of. No, now is when you are going to start. Do it today if you possibly can. But I mean, you want to gather all your information, have everything at your disposal so that you are ready to do it. But the sooner you can do it, the better. What is the due date? So by March 28th, we would expect you to have your application portal submitted to your application portal, your GWF number. There's now a questionnaire on your application portal for your GWF number and your biometrics appointment confirmed, not completed. If you can't get a biometrics appointment before the 28th, that's fine. like to actually physically go before the 28th. But we need to know it's scheduled by the 28th, right? So the number that I told you to watch for as you do the application, you'll input that for us to have on record. And that email that shows when your biometrics appointment is. We need to have all of that done by March the 28th. So that gives you some time. Gives you some time to come in and work with us one-on-one, or we will set aside a group time where just anybody can drop by to come and talk with us about the process. So that's a key date, March 28th. Okay, hopefully all goes well. You do all 3 steps, and one day a bouncing baby visa arrives in your mailbox. Nobody says bouncing baby boy anymore, do they? I need to change that. But you will retrieve your passport by it being mailed back to you. And you want to carefully check that all the information is correct. Here are the things to pay special attention to. Your personal details. Make sure the spelling of your name, all parts of your name, is correct. Check that date of birth. Check the passport number. These must match exactly what is actually on your passport. So what's on the visa matches what's on your passport. Again, we have seen mistakes. These are specific numbers that are going to also be on there that we're providing on your letter. And so you can check those over as well, but we will also be looking, Joe knows these numbers very, very well. And so she will look at your visa type and your sponsor number when you send it to us to also confirm, which we'll talk about in a second. But you should also be really aware of the valid to and from dates. Make sure those encompass the dates of your program. Again, they can vary. Sometimes they give you a 7-day window on either side of your start and end date. Sometimes it's just the actual program start and end dates. Just make sure the program dates are covered. And so when it comes back and it says that your program ends on, 11/12/24, don't panic and think you're suddenly out of your visa in the middle of November. Because remember, that switched. So that's December 11th, which I think actually would also still be a problem. I think your program ends on the 12th. Just remember day, month, year, when you check it, we'll be looking at it too. You want to check the wording of the permissions. The words should be work limit 20 hours per week term time, or no work expect. Is that right, Joe?
No, that's a typo, isn't it?
Okay.
It should be no work except work placement.
Okay. That's what I thought. Joe and I both looked at this, but
no, that just means the only work you can do is that associated with your internship. You can't get a job, which is absolutely fine because none of you are going to be applying for jobs in London.
Right. Okay, so you should also see that no public funds or no recourse to public funds. Again, this is in your instructions, but we'll be looking at it too. Joe will check every visa that gets returned, so we will know. There's a real life example so that you can see that type listed there, where the permissions will be, just so you have an idea of what it's going to look like when it gets stuck into your passport. But then this is the key, right? We definitely want you to double check it, especially like your date of birth, since that's something you will know best, but we will look at it too. So you're going to send a picture, just take a quick picture of the actual, that page that I just showed you, right? This, not your passport page again, or sometimes there's a little sticker on the very back of your passport. We're not looking for that. We need that actual vignette, the sticker that we're using the word sticker, but that vignette page in your passport. Send that to Joe as soon as you receive it. As soon as you receive it, we worry when we don't see them. So if you we have to track you down and you're like, oh yeah, it came like 5 days ago. Don't cause us 5 days of stress. Just send it to us as soon as you can. We really would appreciate it, especially if there are any errors, be in touch immediately. Don't wait any number of days to let us know there are errors that you can see. Because again, you will have to physically send that back to New York for corrections. And so be in touch immediately. It's a lengthy process. So really got to be prompt on that. And the best thing is to avoid it altogether by doing a careful job on the front end.
Yes,
But again,
but
they make
I mean,
mistakes.
as we mentioned earlier, often the errors are on the part of the UKVI, so it's very common. I think last semester or this current semester of students, only one visa had an error, but that's 1 out of 19, so it's quite a high percentage rate of issues. And so far we've had 100% rate of students failing to spot their own errors, their errors on the visa. So they get their visa back, they look at it, they think it's okay. No one has ever picked up on a problem. And I've picked up on quite a lot. So please do send it to me, because if you forget and I have to chase you and then several weeks go by, then we have had students who then I go, oh dear, there's a massive problem on that visa. And then there's not necessarily enough time to get it corrected. So when you get it, have a check over, then just send it to me. If you have noticed anything, obviously flag that up and then we can deal with it. Great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing them.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go through just some things real quickly. I know we're running out of time. Just know that if you don't submit the forms correctly, omit any of your supporting documents when you mail stuff off, you could be denied your visa. We can't guarantee you will be granted a visa. So the more you can avoid these kind of problems, the better. Because if you are denied for any reason, you have to reapply from the beginning, which means repaying the visa fee. I didn't talk a lot about the visa fee, but they've raised that fee. Now you're going to be getting reimbursed for what you pay to get your visa. So I know it's going to look like a big amount. You'll be reimbursed, but only for the first one. If you have to do it again, we will not be reimbursing you. So again, you'd have to even go through the biometrics appointment a second time. Again, if you delay in doing this, right, take some time and you then have to expedite the process, that is more fees, and those will not be reimbursed to you either. Here are some of the mistakes. Mistyping your name, not realizing forename versus surname, not shipping everything that needs to be shipped. Make sure that letter's in there. Not timing it well so that you kind of suddenly realize you have to travel on your passport and therefore can't send it or can't get it back in time. Not putting in the right dates. Remember, it has to be student visa. Sometimes people get confused because you're doing it for an internship, but it's your student visa. I think we've looked at all the passports and made sure they all had validity past 6 months from this coming December, but look at that again. Consequences for those mistakes. Sometimes, again, people have to overnight their visa, which is hundreds of dollars more. We did actually have a student, because of the timing, the time crunch, had to fly to New York at their expense so that they could do an immediate visa, which added more expense. It ended up being thousands in the long run once you added in their hotel and everything. So don't do that. Okay, so we have a couple minutes. Are there any questions right now that you want to ask?
For
Again,
listing
you'll
out
have
the country, oh, sorry.
Go
For
ahead.
listing out the countries you've like been to before, is it like in the last couple years, or is it like ever? Or for the dates of those?
I think it's almost ever, Madison. So again, it is a dynamic form, and they can slightly alter that depending on like where people are applying from. But it pretty much the last time I went in there, it said, where have you been like ever in your life? Yeah.
Okay.
So for some
again,
people,
it doesn't have
that can be quite it can be quite a lengthy list, yeah, for some people.
But again, don't just include an airport you're in for 3 hours, right?
No.
It's a place that you've actually entered in and would have gotten that on your passport.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Okay, so just really quickly, because you can ask questions by email, just be in touch. I did just want to let you know that this means there are new things on that application portal, not only where you're going to find your letter and your instructions, but you have requirements to complete. The visa GWF number and your biometrics, when you know that, which may not be in the next couple of days, but soon. But I've also put on there the roommate questionnaire. You got to meet people again on Tuesday. You can fill out that roommate questionnaire. The Daniel House manual is there, needs your review and signature. But I've also put up a couple other really important things. One is the internship questionnaire that Tom talked about on Tuesday. So you can always go back and review the internship manual that you did in the advising session with me. That's down at the bottom. You can open that again, read through it again. But now Joe and Tom are actually asking you to fill out some questions where you tell them those 3 areas or 3 fields of work that you're interested in, answering other questions about your goals and your career ambitions. Make sure you complete that questionnaire as soon as you can. And then finally, you are also going to be providing us information about a bank account where we can put your direct deposits for your board funding. So that's the $2,700 that we're going to distribute to you throughout the semester. It also includes the payment for this visa. So that's why we want that banking information now, so we can get that to you sooner than later. Right? You're going to have to use a credit card to pay the hundreds of dollars for your visa. We want to reimburse you. We can't do that until we have your banking information. Now, let me be really clear, that banking information form is confusing. When you fill out the form, you have to fill it out. Your parent can't fill it out. They aren't a Sanford person. They don't have a Sanford 900 number. So even if it's going to be your parent's bank account, you need to fill out the form. You need to sign it. That is the form you're going to complete. We also need proof from your bank, something that shows the bank account number, the bank name, and the account holder's name. So if you have any questions or any confusion about the direct deposit information, please be in touch right away, because that's the only way we're going to get you your money back for this visa and for to get food while you're in London in the fall. Okay, we've gone over by just a minute, but that is all the information I had that we had to share with you today. So just be in touch and we will be following up with you as well. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. I'm going to turn the recording off too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.